يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to start by thanking the committee and Brother Mubarak for inviting me here. It's just to add to some of the points that he made. I am a GP. That's what I do for a living. But obviously, I'm also a full-time father. I have 2 children, and for a long time, my wife and I have been thinking about this really difficult challenge of how to raise our children. And I've had lots of thinking about this, which I'm going to share with you. I can't share everything with you because there's just too much. I actually have given these sort of circles before in my son's school. It's an Islamic school. We've had a series of talks. I've started a series of discussions, a monthly event now in Upney, where we're bringing the local community together to discuss these things. Really to present the ideas. I'm not saying that I know everything about parenting. I can tell you that now. I don't know. You might ask me a question and I say, I don't know the answer, yeah? So I'm not saying that I know everything, but I've had some thinking and I want to share this thinking. And it may be that you've had thinking, you have better thinking than me. And maybe in the question and answers in the comments, etc., you can teach me something. So what is it that we can give a treatment? And I know some of you feel very not happy with your GPs because before you even said something, they've got the prescription for paracetamol, yeah? But what GPs should be doing is that they should first work out what is your problem. And we first work out the problem and then we make the treatment comes afterwards. So what I was thinking is that before we can even discuss how to raise children and what we need to be doing, it's actually we need to understand what the problem is. Where are the challenges? Where are the difficulties? And this is almost like my introduction talk that I've given in the past, which is this issue of, why is it? Have we asked ourselves, why is it actually so difficult to raise children? Yeah? Has it ever been easy? Has it ever been easy to raise children? Do you think? Yes? No? It's never been easy. Actually, all the way from Adam alayhi salam. Yeah? If you think about Adam alayhi salam, he had 2 sons. Yeah? His 2 sons, one killed the other. Kabil killed Habil. Yeah? So it's not exactly easy to raise children. It's never been easy. If you look at Nuh alayhi salam, his son, what happened to his son? The waters were coming down, and his son said, right, father, I'm going. I'm going to run up the mountain. I'm going to save myself in the mountain. He said, no, nothing will save you today. But he said, look, don't worry about me. And he lost his son. It's never been easy. It's never been easy. But there are some specific realities that we have come across today that we need to be aware of and understand. Okay, so the first thing, even before I talk about the problems, and I just want to maybe introduce it in terms of our responsibility. Because as parents, okay, let me get an understanding of what we have here. Brothers, everyone here is a parent? Everyone's a parent, yeah? No, some people. Okay, those who aren't parents, you can learn, so you'll be ready for parenthood, inshallah. But your children are what? What's the oldest child that you have? How old are they? 2.5?
5.5.
5.5, 2.5, 5.5. So young, below 7s. Good.
24.
Okay, mashallah, 24. Okay, so you're experienced. You should be here. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone got teenagers?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got some teenagers. We've got some young children. We've got some pre-teens, teens, and then older children, yeah? So you can understand here almost that there's a great gap, and we need to understand the differences between each of these groups. But going back to my point, understanding the responsibility. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ku anfusikum wa ahlikum nar waquduha an-nas wal hijara. Very well-known ayah for Surah Tahrim, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ku anfusikum. Save yourselves and your who? Ahl, your families. From what? The fire, whose fuel is men and stones. It tells us something that we have a great responsibility. We will be asked, you and I will be asked about this as fathers, as mothers. We'll be asked in Yawm al-Qiyamah about our children. What did you do for them? So we can't say, well, what can we do? It's tough. Yeah, I don't have a responsibility. No, you have a responsibility. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said in a very well-known hadith, every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. Yeah? The leader of the people is a guardian and is responsible for his subjects. A man is guardian of his family and he is responsible for them. A woman is the guardian of her husband's home and his children, and she is responsible for them. So here in the hadith you see that the man, we're responsible for our families. The wife, she is responsible for the children as well. We will be asked on Yawm al-Qiyamah about our responsibilities as to what we did for our children. A very nice example about responsibilities of our children is an incident that happened actually at the time of Umar al-Khattab when he was the Khalifa. And a man came to him complaining. So he came to Umar al-Khattab and he complained, my son, he doesn't listen to me. He's very bad, he's just causing problems at home. So Umar al-Khattab said, okay, you've come, your father, this is very strange that your son shouldn't listen to you and is misbehaving. So let me go and investigate and I'll go and speak to the son. So he called the son and the son came, young boy. And he asked the son, oh son, your father's complaining about you. Well, what do you have to say? And then the son said, what my father's complaining about me, it's true. Yeah, I don't behave, I don't do this, I don't do that. But Umar al-Khattab, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, can I ask you a question? Do I have any rights upon my father? So Umar al-Khattab, he said, yes, you have some rights. You have 3 rights upon your father. The first right is what? You've probably heard of this. What's the first right? Find a good mother. The first right that you have upon your father is actually even before you're born, that the father has to find a good mother. The second right? A good name, yes. The second right that you have of your father is a good name. And the third right? Teach you Islam. Teach you of your deen. So he said, okay, Amir al-Mu'mineen, my father chose the worst woman to be my mother. My father gave me the worst name, as my name. And my father taught me nothing of the deen. So Umar al-Khattabi turned to the man who came to the complaint and he said, you came to me complaining of your rights from your son when you haven't given your rights to your son. Yeah? You haven't given your rights to your son, but you expect his rights, to take the rights from him. Go away from here. Okay? So this incident is actually very nice. It tells us there's many lessons, but there's some nice lessons. One is, as parents, if you ever have children, you'll find that they're always fighting and complaining. And when the child comes to you and says, my brother did this, my sister did this, what do you do? What should you do? Sorry? Hear 2 sides of the story. You look at what Umar al-Khattab he did. He didn't immediately say, yeah, the father said this, that's the end of the matter. And Umar was well known with his sword, yeah? So he didn't say, right, that's the end of the matter. No, he went and found out from the son himself. He said, well, what is the matter? Always remember, hear both sides of the story. Very important. It will save you lots of problems as a parent, yeah? Second lesson. The very important thing is that the right of a child comes even before he is born. Now, I am not aware of any other deen, any other religion, any other way of life where the right of a child even starts before he's born. He's got this right that his father has to choose the right mother for him. Yeah? I mean, look at this society. Last week, there was this whole thing in Ireland about abortion, and they said, yes, look at how they look at life. They're willing to kill life. The child has no rights until they actually come into our born, isn't it? While in our deen, the child has the right even before like the cells have even come together. Yeah, SubhanAllah. Even before the soul has been breathed, the child has the right. It's an amazing thing. Just think about that for a second. How much weight our deen, Islam, gives to the individual and to life. SubhanAllah. It's an amazing thing. The third thing, of course, is that, and this is what Umar said, is that before you can demand your rights from your child, and we all have great expectations of our children, we want this from them. Before you can expect rights from them, are you giving your rights that they are to get from you? It's a question that you have to ask yourself. Sometimes I find my children, they're misbehaving. Before, sometimes, as parents, of course, you have a go at them, but sometimes you have to ask yourself, SubhanAllah, Are they misbehaving because something I've done? Are they misbehaving because I haven't taught them the right thing? Are they a reflection of me, actually? And often you'll find that they're a reflection of you. Okay, so that's my introduction. Why is it important? Our responsibility. Now we're going to come to the main thing. Yeah, the main thing is, why is it so difficult to raise children? Yeah? And I have come down to three things. Because I'm a doctor, doctors love acronyms. MBBS, MRCP, FRCS, ABS, CSA, all of this sort of stuff. We like the letters, yeah. And I've reduced it down to just three things, three S's. Three S's, S, S, S. They're the core of why it's difficult to raise children. Any guesses as what the first, second, and third S's might be? Huh? Okay, society, very good. Someone switched on. Society is number 2, actually. It's not the first one. So first S, second S is society, third S. Any guesses as to what the first and the third are? Huh? Social media. Social media falls under society. Sincerity falls under the first one. Okay, I'll tell you. Supervising falls under the first one. The first S, in my view, yeah, is self. You. Yeah? It also includes your children, the individual, yeah, the self. The second S, as Imam Sahib said, is society. And the third S is, what's above society? State. Yeah? These are the three things. You can reduce down every problem that we have with raising our children essentially into under these three categories. Yeah? Now there's a mixture. There's a bit of, there's one is related to the other. They're all closely linked. But essentially you'll find that you can reduce all the problems down on our challenges as to raising our children fall under these things: self, society, and state. So let's talk about each one of these. I mean, okay, when it comes to self, what do you think some of the challenges are as you, as a parent, raising your child? You tell me. By the way, I'm not saying that I have all the answers. You can probably add to this list, but I've just made it down to about 4 or 5 key things from self. Give me some ideas. What do you find difficult as a parent? Huh? Time. Okay, very good. That's one of my issues. Anything else?
I think being able to say no to.
Okay, being able to say no. Okay, good. Anything else? Sorry? One-to-one, okay. Having the skills and how to do things with your children. Anything else? Brother at the back. Too much telling off. Okay, so again the skills. Yeah, good. Okay, let me give you some ideas, okay? I'm a doctor. How long do you think I took to become a doctor? 6 years, yeah? Some of you, what do the people in this room do? What sort of things? What do you do, brother? You are? Okay, to become a civil servant, were you given any training? You were given some training, whether it's a lot or a little. Yeah? Even the manual worker, yeah, who has to lift things, he's trained to do what? How to lift. Health and safety. Every aspect of our lives we are trained. And yet, when it comes to parenting, what training did you receive? Nothing? Nothing. Sorry? From your parents. You had some training maybe from your parents. That's a very good point. I'll come back to that. But the general point is that most of us, like marriage actually, you get to a certain age, your parents say, right, it's time for you to get married, nikah done, and suddenly you're married, yeah? Okay, what am I supposed to do as a married man? No idea. You become, then suddenly you have a child. What am I supposed to do as a parent? Not sure. Yeah, you're completely clueless. Most of us are completely clueless. If we're lucky, we might have good parents who taught us a few things. Unfortunately, most of us, our parents had the same problem. Yeah? If you ask them, did you know what you were doing when you were a parent? They said, no, we don't know either. So we didn't know, and we were actually the experiment of our parents. Yeah, and you'll find if you have many children, you're experimenting one with each child is a slightly different experiment, and you're trying to work out what to do. The basic problem is that parenting seems to be the only thing where we have no training whatsoever. It's a very strange thing if you think about this. Very strange thing. And that is a big issue. Is that if you don't, and this is another point which links to this, if you don't know what you're doing, how can you do this? Yeah? If you don't know what you're doing, how do you know what to even raise? What are you trying to raise? Are you clear on what you're trying to raise? Yeah? Are you clear how to deal with problems? You don't. It's a very important point. Another issue that someone said here, time. Yeah, wallahi, one of the biggest problems when I speak to people, they say, I don't have time. I want to do things. I want to spend time with my children, etc., but I don't have time. Okay? And out of that, one of the modern reality, one of the biggest problems, what keeps us away from time, are two things essentially, which are what? Work and what's the real social media? They're the two. Work is work, yeah? And unfortunately, we live in this society, and this is linked to the society and state, where, wallahi, if you think about it, brothers, we spend so much time working, isn't it? Day and night, if you go to the Muslim world, you work in the morning, work in the afternoon, and come home, and you got all the evening off, yeah? Here, we just seem to be working all the time. And if they had 8 days, you'll be working 8 days. Yeah? It's very strange, we're just working all the time. You just don't have time. Because why? Because it's this rat race, constantly, you've got to be earning, to pay for your bills, pay for this, pay for that, etc. Yeah? So we don't have time. But the other thing, which is the more recent phenomenon, is of course social media. So, my child always has a go at me, that, you're always on your phone. You're always on your phone, you're always on your computer, you're always on your iPad. And it's true. We don't have time. But here's a question. Does any man have more than 24 hours in a day? Does any man have more than 24 hours in a day? No. Does any man have less than 24 hours in a day? No. We all got 24 hours. And yet some people seem to achieve more and some people seem to achieve less. Why is that? It's because of what you put in those 24 hours. We all have the same amount of time, but we have to make decisions and priorities about what we put into that 24 hours. What is more important? What is less important? Is really me earning more and more and more so I can build my extension, double-story extension, have the Mercedes-Benz on the front drive? Is that really as important as, okay, I'll have to do less work, but that time that I have, I can give to my children? What is important? What will you be asked about in Yawm al-Qiyamah? Will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, so did you get that E-Class Mercedes on the front drive? Will He ask you that? I don't think so. What He will ask you about is what has happened to your children. You are responsible for your children. So I'm not saying that everyone's reality is the same. Of course, there's differences. Some people have to work just to make ends meet. But unfortunately, for most of us, let's be honest, we have more than enough. But we spend more and more time just earning more to do all these things, as opposed to do what? Give our time where it's required. And your children, I'll tell you something about your children, brothers, is that your children only need you when they're young. Yeah? First 7 years, second 7 years. As soon as they're late teenagers, they don't need you anymore. Then you can have time, but they don't need it. They need it when they're young. It's time specific. It's like Salat al-Jummah. Jummah is a very specific time, isn't it? If you don't do it then, well, you missed it. You missed your children. If you don't give the time when they need it, which is when they're young, at least up till the sort of the teens, they will need you after that. And I have many friends. I have many friends who are colleagues, doing very well. Mashallah, high up in the medical profession. They've got big houses and all the rest of it. They all live in Chigwell for some reason, yeah. And they say to me, when I speak to them, they say, what is your regret? And they say, my biggest regret is that I spent these years building my career, making the household, and my children, well, I don't know what's happened to my children. Big regret that they have. So this is one of the key things, is that time, yes, time is a problem, but we all have to manage our time. And we need to think about what is most important. Okay. What else from the self? I think someone talked about skills. Yeah. How to communicate with our children. How to communicate with our children is very important. Our children are not us. One of the things I've realized is that I'm quite a focused, high-achieving sort of character. Yeah. Very studious. I like to read lots of books. My children don't. Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's created every single one of us in a different way. If I expect and force my children to be just like me, it's not going to work. They'll help me, isn't it? Each child is different. People are different. Everyone in this room is slightly different. You need to understand this. You need to understand how to communicate with, how to communicate with young people. You know, I meet young people. There's some stuff that I do with young people. And I'll tell you something, when they speak, I don't even know what they're saying. These words that they use. I mean, I thought, you know, wicked is as far as I can go, but they've got new words which no one, I just don't know what they're saying. So I'm looking at them saying, right, okay, how to communicate with children is something. What is going through their heads is something you need to know. And also there's differences that you have amongst children. I'll give you an example. I remember many years ago, my uncle, he lives in Bangladesh. He had a son, my cousin. And, you know, he's a teenager, my cousin's a teenager. And, you know, when you're a teenager, you like to dress a bit different. And he likes to wear jeans. My cousin likes to wear jeans. And my uncle was furious. Now, good people don't wear jeans. It's like, you might find this strange, but, you know, going back to the 90s, this is how people used to think, especially from that sort of background. Good people, good boys don't wear jeans. And he came to me and said, look, my son's wearing jeans, you know, you've got to do something about it. And I said, look, is that really something you want to do about it? What's the problem? Is it haram? Is it haram to wear jeans? It's not haram to wear jeans. So why are you making a big issue out of it? Because when you enforce this upon your children, what will happen? What will happen? They'll be angry with you. They'll be rebellious. You'll make it worse. Yes, you can express your likes and dislikes, but here is where Islam comes in. Where are the red lines? Where are the red lines with your children? Where should be the red lines with your children? That's right. Halal and haram. It's the obedience and disobedience to Allah. That's the red line. When a child does something that will disobey Allah, that's when you have to put your foot down. There's no discussion here, yeah? I mean, there is a discussion, but there's no, like, this is the limit. But anything short of that, you know, if I like the color green, he likes the color blue, and I said, no, you got to like green, you're not going to get very far. Yeah? You're not going to get very far. There's this space in which you can operate. And what you're trying to do in that space in which you're operating is trying to build these right concepts so that his love and desires, his likes and dislikes are on the halal and the haram. Okay, so these are some of the skills, the way to talk even to children. It's something we struggle with, you know, personal skills. I'll give you an example. Again, I'm from Bangladesh, and, you know, we've messed up parenting, wallahi. Yeah? I'll give you an example. A relative of mine, when I was many years ago, when I was a teenager, I used to live in their house. And he used to tell me that my father never talks to me. Young man, my age. My father never talks to me. I said, what do you mean he doesn't talk to you? I said, my father has this opinion that he's my father. He shouldn't talk to his sons. Because if you talk to your son, that's it. You've made a command and the command is final. Yeah? It's strange, isn't it? You can't talk to your son? What are you talking about? And yet, this is how he lived. This is how he was brought up, never talking to his son. When he was older, his father went and lived abroad with him. Because I'm worried. His father used to say, I'm worried that if I get into a fight with my son, it's going to be black or white, my way or the highway. That's the sort of person he was. Very strange, isn't it? How do you communicate with people? Having those skills to be able to communicate. These are some things we need to be training ourselves. How to praise your children. How to praise your children, for instance. All of these, there's lots and lots of different ideas, techniques, tips that we need to explore, understand. Yeah? How to motivate children. Yeah? My wife and I, one of the things that we've been doing is on the back of these events, monthly events, we make little videos. And these videos are targeted towards parents to basically to make them think. How to motivate your children. What motivates? For instance, I'm sure you all will have felt, who has had children who don't tidy up their rooms? Okay, I can see from the smiles in this room that that's a common problem, isn't it? You go into your child's room and it's like, what happened here? Yeah, you know, an atomic bomb went off in this room. Yeah, right? This is like you feel like this, and you tell them that you need to tidy up your room. Next day, tidy up your room. Next day, tidy up your room. Next day, tidy up. You're telling them always just tidy up, but nothing ever changes. Why? Because you don't know what's motivating them. You've got to touch on what motivates them. If you can touch on that thing, then you'll find suddenly the room gets tidied. If you don't touch on what motivates them, no matter what you say, every day you'll be just screaming at them. Now this is something that we see as parents. You know, we have, and ourselves, we struggle with our children. We think, why aren't they listening to us? Why don't they listen to us? It's because you haven't touched them on what motivates them. You need to understand what motivates them and how to address that. And these are, remember, brothers, this is more of an introduction, so all of these are the bigger discussions that we can talk about later, or we have events, so I can tell you maybe afterwards these events that you can turn up, and we have workshops and things like that, so we can talk about these in more detail. So that's some of the things in terms of yourself, and the struggles that you have. Just one last point about the self. You can't give what you don't have. Very important point. You can't give what you don't have. If you are dishonest, how can you expect your children to be honest? Children, wallahi, one of the things, the great things about them is that they live in your house, isn't it? They see you for what you are. You can hide from outside, you know. I'm sitting here and you might think, oh, mashallah, this is a very nice man. Yeah? But my wife and my children, my parents know me better than any of you people do. And they know really what I'm like. Yeah? Your children know you. And if you want to build something in your children, you can't give what you don't have. You can't build honesty if you're dishonest. If you're dishonest. You can't expect them to pray if you're not praying. You can't expect them to give in charity if you're not giving in charity. You can't expect them to behave nicely if you're not behaving nicely. I'm not saying even if you are, doesn't mean that they will. Yeah? Let's be clear. Yeah? Nuh alayhi salam, a good example. He was a prophet of Allah. His son was a disbeliever. Yeah? It's not guaranteed, but you can't expect them to be something that you're not. Now that doesn't mean, of course, that we have to be perfect before we can teach our children anything. Of course not. We also need to know that we are in a work in progress. And actually, you need to be honest with each other. Sometimes you will make mistakes. Sometimes my son will say to me, Baba, you did this. And you've got to say, son, you're right. I did it. You're right. I made a mistake. I did something wrong. You've got to say that. And then you move on. This is sincerity, the brother was saying. These are the aspects of sincerity that we need to have. But we need to be able to always thinking, yes, I'm moving on, I'm making mistakes, you're making mistakes. Forgive me, let's move on. Yeah? But obviously, as a parent, the greater responsibility is on you first. You need to guard your tongue more than you can expect him to. Yeah? All of these things need to be. I'll give you an example. A brother, he lives not too far from me, he was telling me the other day that he's building an extension. A lot of extensions being built in Barking at the moment. Yeah, so he's building an extension, and he's telling me, he's bragging. Yeah, he's saying that, look, I got this man, the builder, and I said to him, £30,000 for everything. But you know something? I don't have £30,000, and I know I don't have £30,000. So I'm just going to let him do all the work, and at the end of it, I'm just going to give him £20,000. And I'm going to say, look, what can I do? What can I do? And I looked at him and I said, SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. This is dishonesty, isn't it? You agreed to something which you have no intention of fulfilling. This is dishonesty. Now, and I was thinking, you have children. What are you teaching your children? You're teaching them, oh look, I made a lot of money, I fooled that guy. Wallahi, what are you teaching your children? You're teaching them to cheat other people. And then you're surprised that they become cheats and frauds and all of these things. Something very important we need to think about. You can't give what you don't have. Think about yourself. And one of the things that I've learned in parenting, my own experience in parenting, before I think about my children, I'm thinking about who? This person. I'm thinking, wallahi, I'm a mess. I need to sort myself out before I can sort my children out. And actually, that's the process in itself. Okay. Any points on that, on the self, before we move on to the second S, which is society? Yeah?
Sorry.
Go.
First time we were talking about the parenting in the training. So, why is discriminatory? Do you think why discriminatory the parents should have some training throughout their children? So even if you think our father or grandfather, they did not have any training. How they grow up then?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. Look, this issue is it mandatory? I'm not saying that it's necessarily fard. Yeah, I'm not using those terms. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that look, we have a role to do, and some of us naturally have these qualities, and so they find it easy. But most of us don't. Yeah? Most of us, the reality, unfortunately, is most of us don't. The other thing that we need to understand is that the world is changing. And this comes to the society point. The world is changing. What my grandfather experienced, what my father experienced, what I experienced, and what my son is experiencing are very different. Very, very different. Yeah? What my son, what I'm seeing in my lifetime, what my son is experiencing when he's like, 5 years old. Yeah, everything is so different. Our grandfathers, in some respects, they were protected from many of the ills that we see in society today. In my grandfather's generation, growing up in a village in Bangladesh, if he wanted to do some fahisha, he would have to go purposefully to go and find it. Today, the fahisha is on here. You don't have to go anywhere. You just have to switch a button and it's there. These are the challenges that we have. So one is this issue that the challenges are changing, and if we're not aware, then we will fall behind and we'll be in trouble. We'll be ruined. But the other aspect is that even our parents, I'll tell you something. We might think that, my parents did a good job. Yeah, I can't generalize here. But we do have to ask ourselves this question. Are we really what Allah wants us to be? Because what is the purpose of parenting even? Think about it. To raise your children, what is it that you want to do? This is actually a different discussion, which I actually have another circle on. What is it that we want our children to be? Yeah? Is it clear what it is that we want our children to be? If you look at our community, a lot of our parents will say, as long as my son or daughter, they're not drinking, yeah? And they're not bringing, what's the word? Dishonoring our family. Yeah. That's all they care about. Frankly, how do they have the house and mortgages? How they earn their money? They're not that bothered. As long as they're not bringing disrepute to our family, that's okay. Even this issue of what it is that we want our children to be, and did our parents achieve that? I'll tell you something. They did. No, I'm not blaming my parents. Wallahi, they did. I'll give you a personal incident. My father, he's now, mashallah, he's 80 now. And he once said to me that, because he saw that I became Islamic and I was practicing all of this, and he wasn't particularly practicing before. And about a year ago, he said to me, I'm happy for you, that you seem to have found Islam. Yeah? And he said, I'm sorry that I didn't do more, but I didn't know better. That's basically his way of saying sorry. Yeah? I mean, he didn't say the word sorry. Bengali parents do not say sorry. Yeah? We've got to draw the line somewhere. Yeah? They don't say sorry. But that's his way of saying, look, I did what I could. I didn't understand better. What could I do? And it's true. I mean, you see, our ummah as a general, we unfortunately, and this is one of the problems in society, we've become distant from Islam, isn't it? You have to admit this. So even parents, even with the best will and best understanding, they don't know what they want or what is good for their children. So often in our society, what is good for our children is what? Mashallah, he's got a big house. Or he's a doctor. Every Bengali parent wants their son to be a what? A doctor. Yeah, my parents as well. But this is it, isn't it? The criteria of success is what? Is these things. Which is not necessarily what Islam says. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be doctors, lawyers, etc., accountants, etc. Yeah? But the criteria of Islam is halal and haram. That's the key criteria. Did they really build up? Not necessarily. So I think this is something to bear in mind. Not having a go at all at our parents. They did what they did. May Allah reward them for what they did and give them the highest Jannah for what they did. Yeah? Without our parents, let's face it, none of us, we would have been finished a long time ago. We wouldn't be where we are today. Yeah? Yes. No. See, you're absolutely right. You see, each of these little points that I'm raising is a discussion in itself. What I had in mind, it's in 12 sessions, but even that's not enough, because then you get into these questions. And those breakdowns that I do, for instance, with my wife about, for instance, how to praise your children. Let me give you an example. How to praise your children. Have you ever thought about how to praise your children? It's interesting, it's part of parenting. Do you say, yeah, Hisham, great recitation, you're so great? You could say that. Or you can say, Alhamdulillah that Allah has given you such a beautiful voice by which to recite His Quran. Both of them are praising the child. Which is correct and which is incorrect? Why? You're absolutely right. Why? Think about it. If you think about reciting them, the nice voice, mashallah, we come to Taraweeh, you hear the Imam's beautiful voices. Who gave them the voice? All the attributes that we have. You might be strong, you might have good memory, you might be good looking, yeah? Even your wealth. All of these things are from who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not from you. If you praise a child saying, oh, look, it's you, what does that do to the mind of a child? It gives him ego. It gives him pride. It gives him arrogance. Very dangerous. What are you building in your child? You're building what was built in what Iblis had. I am better because I am made of fire, he's made of clay. This is what you're building. And over time, this can become real. And in this society, actually, that's what they tell you. Everything is down to you. Your success is up to you, isn't it? That's what they say. In this society, your success, if you're a millionaire, it's because you did it. Yeah? If you are poor, it's because you're useless. You're worthless. That's what they say. But no, rizq is in the hands of Allah. We need to then give the attribute to Allah. So even when we praise a child, you see now, even a simple point about praising your child, there is a parenting understanding. And it's linked to Islam. Because Islam is what? What does Allah say? What does when He praises, what does He praise? Does He praise the achievement, the success, or does He praise the effort? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises the effort. Nuh alayhi salam did dawah for how many years? How many people did he bring into the deen? And so, from the Western understanding, that's a failure. This man's been around 900 years, he only got about a handful of people became like believers. That's a complete failure. But is he a failure? He's a prophet of Allah. His reward is in what? The effort that he put in. What did he say? He said, I have called my people from day and night, from every opportunity, every angle. I've tried this. Yeah, the reward is in the effort. And actually, if you build that in your children, that is the effort that you'll be rewarded on. Praise the effort in your children. Actually, then you find that your children start responding. They say, I want to try. I want to try to do something, isn't it? They're not afraid to take on challenges, even if they are failures, even if they don't get the big job. Yeah, they're not afraid. They say, this is rizq min Allah. I'm okay. I'm happy with this. Goes back to the contentment issue. Yeah? You're satisfied. So contentment, all of these are ideas. These are all Islamic ideas that we want to build. And actually, it falls under one of the subheadings I have in a different talk, which is what do we want to build in a child? It comes under happiness. It's one of the things that we want for our children is happiness. I always think in threes, yeah? So in that talk, what do we want in our children is also there's threes. And happiness is the second one. Yeah? Okay. Are we happy with that? Can I move on to the second point? My second S. Society. Let's talk about society. We live in a society. Whether we like it or not, we're not just, here's me, but we live in society. We're surrounded. And what is the society? Society has ideas. All societies operate on certain ideas. Now this is where I need you to, this is really important. Let me ask you some questions. If your child, if you said, right, go out there, I'm not going to intervene at all, do you think this society will raise your child and lead him to Jannah or to Jahannam? Everyone in this room has said Jahannam. Is there anyone who thinks that this society will lead your child to Jannah? Why? Why? Why won't it lead you to Jannah? Huh? Ideas of what? What about those ideas? The wrong ideas. Something else, isn't it? This is what I'm talking about society. We live in a society where the ideas are not based on Allah and His Messenger. They're not based on our Islamic ideas and values. They're based on something else. They're based on something else. If it's based on something else, where do you think these will lead? They will lead to wherever they want them to lead. Yeah? Not where we want our children to be. It's like the example I give is like, a river. In a river, you have a current. Now, if you just get a boat and sit in the current, what will happen to you? You'll go down towards the ocean, yeah, towards the sea. That sea is Jahannam. This is that river is this society. If you just sit here, that's where you're going to end up, unfortunately. Yeah? So if you want to protect yourself, you've got to be, what do you have to do with your boat? If you want to go, you've got to turn it upriver, but even then that's not enough. So you've got to you've got to face the right direction, but that's not enough. Because you'll still be you'll be facing the right direction, but you end up in the sea, yeah? What do you have to do? You've got to paddle. Now, if you paddle slowly, what will happen? You just stay put. You just be there. But if you want to get to Jannah, you've got to paddle really hard. Nice example, yeah? This is the reality of the society that we live in. That they have ideas. Now, it's not good enough just to say, yeah, there's ideas out there. As parents, we need to know what are those ideas. Because your children will be exposed to those ideas. They are exposed to those ideas every single day. Because when my daughter was, or my son, when they were really tiny, they're in your hands. But very soon, TV, social, YouTube, all of this, the ideas are coming. So now the ideas are in your house, yeah? Outside, definitely ideas. And the ideas in many different ways. Ideas in schools. Ideas when they're walking along. Ideas, they're sitting in a bus going to school. Everyone around them is talking. Ideas are being given. They're walking down the road, big billboard. Yeah? Someone without any clothes on a billboard. What idea is that giving? These are ideas constantly on the radio, on TV. They're being taught these ideas. We need to understand what those ideas are. Because if you don't understand what those ideas are, if you're not sharp, as a parent, you will fail. Wallahi, you will fail. We do not know, going back to the brother's point over there, the world has changed. The ideas out there are dangerous ideas, and they're becoming more and more dangerous. Yeah, I'll give you an example, personal example. My father's friend has a son who is also a doctor. Yeah? And I give khutbahs at my hospital. And this is a few years back. I met his son. And at Jummah time, as I give the khutbahs, I obviously go to Jummah, and he sits in the doctor's mess. You know where the doctors sit for lunch break. Yeah? So I went upstairs, gave the khutbah, came back, and he's sitting there. That happened one week. I thought, okay, maybe it's something, I don't know what's happening, maybe there's something emergency that he's having to deal with. Second week I come back, he's still sitting there. He's there. Third week, asked him, you know who I am. Your father, my father, they're friends. Yeah? What's going on? What's going on? Why aren't you at Jummah? And he was a bit embarrassed. He tried to turn away. And I said, look, you know who I am. Talk to me. What's the problem? And he said, look, there was a time when we didn't know how things worked. So we needed God to explain it. But now we have science. We can explain things. We don't need God. This is what he said to me. Where did he get these ideas from? From school. His father sent him to a very posh private school. Very upmarket school. You're thinking, mashallah, he's a consultant psychiatrist now, yeah? He's doing well for himself. Dunya he's done, but his akhirah is gone. Zero. Yeah, he's zero. Why? Because his father lost sight of that point. Lost sight of what are the ideas that his son is being exposed to and being able to discuss these ideas. And that's one example of an idea that they're exposed to, which is science. In this society, they believe what? That right, wrong, truth, falsehood is determined by science. That's why when they talk about, Dhaba, the British Veterinary Society will say what? It's bad, we shouldn't do this. You Muslims shouldn't do this. Because science says they feel pain. Science has become the determinant of truth. Just one idea. What other ideas are out there? What's the most important? I was talking to my son about this the other day, in the car. This society operates on one single most important idea, which is freedom. Your children will learn this as soon as they go to school. They will be actively taught this. When they go to secondary school, they'll be told, you're free. Be careful, don't let your parents, they can't do whatever they want to you. If there's a problem, call the police, call this, call that. Yeah? They teach these ideas that you're free. Yeah? You're free to do what you want. Within limits, of course. They teach all these ideas, but when they talk about freedom, let's be clear on this. What do they mean by freedom? in this society, when they talk about you're free, what do they actually mean? Very specific when they talk about this. Free from what? Free from? This is a freedom from God. When the Western people talk about freedom, don't be confused, because we all know you're not free. Yeah? If we were going down the motorway last night, yeah? Now, I was standing with my son. Am I free to do 100 miles an hour on this road? No, I'm not free. So even they know that you're not free. You're not free to do anything you want. Am I free to kill a person? No, you're not. Are you free to? You're not free to do anything you want. So it's not absolute freedom. But when they talk about freedom, they mean something very specific. Freedom from God. God should not tell us what to do. We should tell us what to do. We should decide what to do. This is the most fundamental idea in this society. And this is what your children, and even ourselves, we're exposed to all the time. All the time. Are you then surprised that your child comes back and says, I want to go out with my boyfriend, my girlfriend, because I'm free. And they will protect that, isn't it? They're free. We're free to drink. If you want to, you're free to drink. You want to take drugs, you're free to do that as well. Just don't do anything. There's got these legal things, but otherwise you're free. You're free not to call your parents and look after your parents. Yeah? I'm a GP. One of the things I'm doing at the moment, I'm working in Canning Town. Big, white, working class population there. I do home visits. I feel so bad when I do home visits, wallahi. You go in, little old lady in her 80s, yeah, by herself in her house, in a flat. Yeah? There's no one even to open the door. They have these key safes. You've got these little things, you have the code, you get the key out, knock on the door, open the door, go in. Hello, I'm here. What's happening? They might have fallen on the ground, no one knows about them for 2 days. But this is what? This is freedom. You're free. As a child, you don't have any responsibility on your parents. You don't have any responsibility for your parents. You're free. This is it. So these are many, many ideas. So one idea is science, one idea is freedom. What other ideas? There are many other ideas in society that if you're not aware of, your children will be in big trouble. There are many ideas. Sorry? Choice. It comes to freedom, yeah? You're free to choose, yeah? Democracy is an idea, yeah? How we rule. It's about ruling, is a choice. Yeah? What else? Secular liberalism. Okay, that's the whole thing, isn't it? That's the fund of what they believe in. Secular, i.e., nothing to do with God. Liberalism, i.e., we're free. Yeah. But let's a simple example is that your sisters, your daughters might be exposed to feminism. What a mess! What a mess! These are the ideas that your daughters will be exposed to. They might come home and say, "I don't want to get married. I don't need to get married. I'm this and I'm that. Men, they're bad." What a mess. Identity, gender identity. In my day, it was, yeah, you're a boy, you're a girl. That's it. Now, well, you're free to choose. And don't think that these are things that, I read about it. Again, let me give you an example. A 6-year-old boy, we were in our surgery, and the doctors were talking about, we discussed cases. A 6-year-old boy has come to one of the GPs and said, his mother was with him, he wants to be a girl. Now we've got to deal with that. What do you do? See, this is the messed up. This is the mess because of these ideas that are in society. And do you think that your children are not exposed to these and they're not going to be affected by these? My son, he started secondary school last summer, yeah? Very first day, not even the first day of going to school. They have these, you have the induction day. You go in early to just get a feel of the school. Very first day, big poster on the wall talking about Ashlut. Yeah? You know what I mean, yeah? There's still children here, so I'm going to be careful what I say. They're talking about this sort of thing. So he comes back. Now, he's grown up in an Islamic environment. He's grown up in Islamic school, homeschool. He's saying, what's this, Baba? What is this? I don't understand it. Now, what are you going to say? He's exposed to it. What are you going to say? He's asking you, what are you going to say? Are you confident enough to be able to explain that to an 11-year-old? Are you confident enough to explain liberalism and freedom to your children? Are you confident enough to be able to explain feminism to your children? Are you able to explain why science is not the determinant of right and wrong? Are you able to explain there is such a thing as absolute truth? That is Allah. Can you firmly say, a simple example, my son later on, he was saying that, in school, one of the boys in his school was saying that, does God really exist? Because we can't touch him, we can't feel him, we can't see him. How do we know he exists? Now, in my father's generation, it'll be, what are you talking about, slap? Yeah? How dare you ask this question, yeah? Today, if your child asks this question in this society and you don't give the right answer, if you don't give him confidence in his iman and his deen, what will happen? He'll be confused. Yeah? Yeah, he'll leave this deen, which is what we're seeing, isn't it? You can't say, like in my father's day, yeah, we just got a slap around the face, Stephen. I remember my Maulana, he said to me, don't even ask these questions. You shouldn't ask these questions. Yeah? But these questions are asked, and they need answers. And if you can't give them an answer, what will they think? They will think several things. They will think that Islam doesn't really have answers. So it is just, as they say, what do they say about Islam? They say there's belief in fairies in the sky. Islam is belief in fairies in the sky because Islam can't answer this simple question. Does God exist? I don't really know. Yeah? Do you see the dangers that are out there? And you need to be, not only do I even discuss these with my children, I'm actually actively asking them, how do you know that Allah exists? And not just once, again and again, and repeatedly from different angles. Every time I think of a different angle, I come up with something. So, example, let's just give you a simple example on this. If you can't sense something, does this mean that it doesn't exist? Because that's what they say. That's what the whole scientific way of thinking is. And I gave him an example. Does your mum love you? And he said, yeah, of course my mum loves me. And I said, how do you know? Can you measure that for me? Can you taste that for me? Can you do something and show that to me? Can you sense that? He goes, nah. But you're sure she loves you? Yeah, I'm sure she loves me. So how do you know that she loves you? Well, she puts me to bed, she gives me nice food. So you know that she loves you from some things that she's doing. You're sensing the signs of that love, not the love itself. You can't put love in a box and say, here's love. My mother's love is in this box. Yeah? But there are certain things that she does which makes you feel that love. The signs. Now I said, okay, Allah exists. Can you sense him directly, touch him, feel him, taste him? No, you can't. But can you see his signs? Of course you can. The dunya and everything in it are his signs. So just because you can't sense him, it doesn't mean that Allah doesn't exist. Allah definitely exists. And there are many other discussions and arguments. But you see, if you don't have this discussion with your child, and if you're not confident in having this discussion with your child, then you're going to run into problems. And this is the nature of this society. Unfortunately, this society does not believe what we believe in. It does not value what we value. Yeah? We value Allah. They make jokes about Allah. They say, forget Allah. We love our Prophet. They make cartoons about our Prophet. And they say, you should accept that. Yeah, that's being civilized and developed. Yeah? That you should accept that, subhanAllah. Yeah? So we need to understand this. So that's my second point. Any questions, points on the society? Big obstacle that we have. How are we doing for time? It's 8 o'clock. So, self, and there's lots of facets of that. Society, all about ideas. Yeah? It's all about ideas. And there are many, I've just touched on some ideas. Many ideas, and each idea. Feminism, how are you going to discuss this? Not an easy one to discuss. Yeah? Hijab. And they've created a society, isn't it, where there's so much hatred, there's fear. What ideas do you have to give to your children, or even your wives or yourself, to go out there? There's wearing hijab is a big issue. Your daughter might be afraid to wear hijab, and I don't blame her. Wallahi, I've got to give credit to our mothers and our sisters. You and I, we can just wear a pair of trousers and go out. We wouldn't even, and if you take your hat off, no one would know. Yeah, but our sisters wearing hijab, targeted. You really need strong taqwa to do that. You really need to understand something very well in order to survive in that environment out there. Are we equipping our children to do that? Are we helping them to do that? How can we do this? These are the ideas that are out there that we need to handle. Okay, third thing. What was the third thing? Self, society, and state. Okay. If the ideas I'm talking about weren't hard enough, what's an even bigger problem than that now? We have a state that is enforcing those ideas on us. Yeah? Heard about Prevent? Heard about Channel? My brother was telling me that in your community that some parents have been affected by this. You hear about this, isn't it? A child draws a picture or writes Allahu on a book. Ooh, well, don't know about that. That's a bit, might be something going on here. Because the government has this idea that the more Islamic you are, the more of a threat you are. That's their thinking. They call it the conveyor belt theory. The more Islamic you are, the more of a threat you are, the more of a danger you are to them. So now they in your schools, from the age of 5 onwards, they have citizenship classes, British values classes. And what again, ask yourself this question, what values are they teaching your children? Is it the Islamic values? No. They use the school, if you go online, go do a Google search, what is the purpose of education in Britain? Just type in those, it'll come up with the government website, yeah? The Department of Education. On that, there's a speech by one of their ministers. His name is Gibbs. And he says there are 3 things that we want to do through our education system, through our school. So this is the government they organize this to do this to your children, to all children. But there are 3 things that they want to do. 1, have a guess as to what those 3 things are. Number 1 is create a workforce. It's about money. This society is a capitalist society. It's all about making money. That's all they care about. They want your children to be able to give them the skills that enables this economy to thrive. Yeah? 2, what's the second thing that they want to give through this education system? Their values. He said, we want to teach them British values. Our values. British values are not Islamic values. Remember the river example? British values end up along that river down there. That's where they go. But they don't care. That's what they want. Number 3 is that they want people to have life skills, how to talk, how to deal with money, all of these sort of things. Yeah. Okay, we don't have a problem with that. Yeah? But you can see that you send your children to school, the state is dealing with them in a certain way. And even us, we're affected by this, isn't it? SubhanAllah. I mean, you got to be careful what you say. The Imam you can't say, the Imams are here. They can't say whatever they want because they're afraid. They've created an atmosphere, an environment where we can't even talk about Islam fully. Even though Islam actually has the values that will solve their problems, isn't it? Solve the problem. There was the issue of knife crime and all of this. Islam has a solution to these problems, and yet we are afraid to almost talk about these because we might be labelled. SubhanAllah, how did we come to this situation? Yeah, we're radical. To even talk about, you might be, if you want to talk about what's happening in the Ummah, oh no, we can't talk about it. And yet, Ummah is an idea, is a value that we want to teach our children, isn't it? Yeah? We want to teach them this. It's a good value to have. But no, we've got to be careful about these values. Ahl Lut, that example. You'll be very careful about talking about these things because you might be labelled as what? An extremist. Because this is not a British value. You need to be able to tolerate. They tell you that you need to tolerate. Tolerate what? Tolerate that you can insult our Prophet? That's what they say. That's what they mean by when they say you should tolerate. This British value of tolerance is we should have the right to insult your Prophet and draw pictures and vile things, and you should just accept it. That is their understanding of tolerance. Let's be clear. Sorry, my words may sound a bit harsh, but this is the reality that we're in. Yeah? This is the reality that we're in. Yeah? Each one of these things, respect. They talk about a British value that they want to teach is respect. Respect for what? Respect for kufr? Yeah. That a person should be in front of you doing whatever and that's okay, you should respect that. You see where all of this is leading. So now you have the state enforcing these ideas. And all of these 3 things, yeah? And again, this is a big discussion in itself. This week, for instance, the government came up with the new contest 3, about how to deal with us. They're saying how to deal with us is what? They're going to now forcefully break up our communities. Yeah, because we need to learn from them. Yeah, it's strange. Wallahi, it's so strange. They actually had, you can write in to give your comments. And I wrote in, I said, like, you want us to integrate. They say, we want integration. You Muslims need to integrate. Integrate into what? Integrate into what? People who get drunk on a Friday night and do silly things? You want us to take that? Is that the value you want us to integrate into? Integrate into, children outside marriage where there's no father, no one knows what's going on here. Is that what you want us to integrate into? Are these the values you want us to integrate into? SubhanAllah. And yet, this is what they want to do, by force, if necessary. So we have these challenges. So why is it difficult to raise our children? There are issues with self, there are issues with society, and there are issues with states. And this is a sad reality, unfortunately, because Islam operates on the same basis. You know that. Islam operates on those very three things. Imagine if we had Islam being operated at a state level, and Islam being in our society so that the ideas were Islamic, and then we had ourselves. Yeah? What would that do? Would that make raising your children easier? Of course it would. If we had Islam as a state, organizing the schools, punishments, organizing so it's easy for us to pray, easy for us to do things, yeah? Keeping us away from these ideas. Yeah, these ideas are not in our society. Yeah? Our job would be much, much easier, isn't it? Raising children would be much easier. But unfortunately, we don't live in that. We don't have the Islamic State. We don't have that, what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him, established in Medina, and that which was carried on after him. We've lost that. We've lost that. And because we've lost that, we are now suffering like we've never suffered before. The challenges are much harder than it should be. Instead of being like, from a state level, society level, individual level, everything is down to the individual now. Everything is down to you. And it's hard work, brothers. It is hard work. But unfortunately, we have to do this. This is our responsibility. We can't say, well, and this is where I think, there's a good African saying that it takes an entire village to raise a child. It takes an entire village. So true, isn't it? It takes an entire village to raise a child. Think about it. When a child is being raised, as parents, you have an input, but your neighbors have an input. The school has an input. The imam has an input. The madrasa teacher has an input. Everyone has an input. The guy on the end of the street, the shopkeeper, has an input. Yeah? Keeping your child away from halal and haram. Yeah? Advising him. The auntie has an input. Everyone has an input. But what we're left with now is, because of the way society is structured, is that it's just down to you. And we struggle. And we really, really struggle with this. And so again, what Islam should have been, which is state, society, individual, and it's something maybe we should think about, why we're not working for that as well, if we really want to solve our problem. But we are where we are, and we need to do what we can do. And I think in terms of what we can do is, again, going back to first, remember when I said at the beginning that before you can do the treatment, you need to have the diagnosis, yeah? What is the problem? What is the problem? And hopefully this discussion, and I've asked many questions, I've touched on many issues, and I haven't given you many answers deliberately, yeah? Because it's not something that but it gives you an idea just how big this challenge is, you know? Just how much we need to be thinking about, yeah? And how much of a responsibility this is around our necks. Yeah? I just wanted to maybe just end with a couple of points. If we are going to do something, yes, if you really want to solve the problem, work for the Islamic State. But otherwise, what do you need to do? What you need to do is work on the individual, yeah? What is in your control, but also strengthen our institutions. What do I mean by institutions? Our masajid, our madrasas, even though we know that the government is targeting even these, yeah? But we need to build that community atmosphere. Tonight is going to be one of the nights of, bring your children to the masjid. Actively bring your children, even for a short time. Make them, the vibe is there. You've got to do extra work now. You've got to give them the vibe, isn't it? Yeah, if you think about Christmas, our children, they go to school, you'll find that they love Christmas, isn't it? You tell them, no, we're not Christians, we're Muslims. Yeah? But they love Christmas. Why? Why do they like Christmas? Because it's fun, it's nice, it's all bright lights, it's music, it's songs. That's why they do it. What about us? This is our Ramadan. What are we doing for our children? Are we making them excited about Ramadan? Are we bringing them to the masjid? Yeah? Is the masjid open to our children? We need to be thinking about this. Bring them to this atmosphere so that they enjoy this, so they love this. Yeah? Give them. I know. I think you want to raise funds this tonight as well. Just a simple practical point. We all know the merits of giving charity, but we want to build in our children giving charity, and it's very important we build this idea in our children. Why? What's another one of those dominant ideas in this society? Not giving charity. What's the actual idea though? Materialism. This society is pushes materialism, isn't it? Own. It's yours. Yeah? Get as much as possible. What's the opposite of getting as much as possible? Charity. You need to teach your children charity. How do you practically teach your children charity? How can you practice? This is a question we should be asking. How do I get them to do this? One, yourself, you give. I'll give you some examples. 3 things that we're doing, my wife and I, with our children this Ramadan. One, obviously you talk about the merits of, so the motivation is there. Yeah? So you talk about the ayat and the hadith, and you need to know these things. And you talk to your children about these things. But practically, give them some money. Here you go. I want you to give it into the charity box. Not me, you give it. I.e., what are you teaching them? That they're doing something with their own hands, giving charity. Yeah? If you want to get away from materialism, Eid is coming up. I know we Muslims will go crazy. It's a bit like the Christians in Christmas, yeah? Dresses, this, that, etc. This year we limited our children. We said, look, what we're going to do is put all our names. There's 4 of us in our family. We'll put the names in a jar and we'll pick out one name. So my daughter picked out my son's name and like this, yeah? You've got £20 to think of a present that you want to give. So this year is not about what am I going to give, what am I going to get. It's about what am I going to give. You're going away from the idea of getting to the giving. Yeah? You've only got £20. You've got to think very carefully about, you've got to know that person. What is the person like? What will he appreciate? Get to know that person. Yeah? Give. Another simple thing. Charities, one of the things that we do is we give in charity, but sometimes you and me will give in charity. Yeah? What about involving the children in charity and saying, look, which charity shall I give to? I want to give £10 to a charity every night, yeah? Which charity shall I give? Or £1. Which charity? There's so many charities. Let's talk about the charity. What are these charities doing? What are the problems that they're facing? So, for instance, the other night I was talking to my son and I was saying, like, there's this charity in East London that deals with deaf people, deaf Muslims. And I said, look, think about this for a second. We have the gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given of hearing. What if you didn't have that? What would your life be like? And we talked about this. I said, should we help people who can't hear? And I go, yeah, let's do that. So you're developing these ideas of giving, of appreciating, of shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the same, all of these things all in one go. Yeah? And then I said, okay, we're going to do it on the internet. You're going to put in all the details. Okay, my fingers were a bit tired, but I said, you're going to put in all the details. You're going to do the actual physical actions of, the sort codes and the thing numbers. You're going to press the buttons and off you go. Yeah? Another night, okay, what charity should we be talking about today? Rohingya are in problem. Syrians are in problem. What's going on? Ideas of ummah, of people who are doing less well than you, people who are suffering. What are they suffering? Why are they suffering? You can have all these discussions. You're building in your children. And you're getting away from this idea of materialism. Yeah? So just, as I said, many, many examples that you can think of, but it just needs a little bit of thinking. And inshallah, some effort from our point. And inshallah, at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, one of the things I've realized is that, you can do all of this, but hidayah comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, guidance comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the ultimate success comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My wife, all of us, we can only do what is in our hands, and the reward is on our efforts, as I said earlier. Yeah? Success comes from Him. And we raise our hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and every night you should do this. In these blessed nights, we should do this. Really ask them that, Ya Allah, protect our children and see them safely in this dunya, and let us meet them in His eternal Jannah in the Akhirah, so we can be there forever together. us and our children, and inshallah all of these people in this room as well. I hope to meet you, wallahi, in his Jannah. Yeah?